A lot of people, that security. Some people say, I don't need to be secure. I'm secure knowing that I'm doing what I want to be doing. That's security.
Now, if I'm a small business and I am interested in, finding investors, people like you to invest in me, how do I make my business more attractive to you?
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a whole nother Kicking It with Kapok episode.
What is obviously I want a shortcut,
Yeah.
just like every person. So,
You
give
know,
me one thing.
Well, I guess you know your audience. Know who you're trying to attract to your business. You'll meet a lot of investors who are just strictly financial investors. So if they're going to give you money, they want to see some sort of pro forma. They want to see, okay, my money's going to be locked up for this long. What kind of returns am I going to get? When am I going to get it back? How are we going to exit? And so if they see that and it kind of meets their hurdle, their objective, and they believe in you and believe that you can actually follow through, there's a pretty good chance that that they're going to give you your money.
Okay.
Other investors, obviously are going to have different criteria. They may just believe in you as a person. I like working with Morella, and whatever, let's just do it.
Even if she shows up with a napkin with like some numbers on it, she's like, yeah, this is what my business does.
Right.
If you like me as a person, then
Right.
you're more likely to take a chance on
Yeah,
me.
and like you as a person, I think you're gonna you are gonna be successful. I don't really know how much money I'm gonna get out of this thing, but I just want to be like in the same room.
Okay.
And I think good things are gonna happen. So let's just do it. So but it differs.
So here's a good question. What's more important, someone being a savvy business owner or them having a good business plan?
Someone says
So someone who has a great idea and they've got a plan to do that idea, but maybe you don't trust that they're necessarily a good business person, or the savvy business person who maybe doesn't have the idea, or which one how do you weigh those two things?
Well, what I would say personally, which everyone may not agree with, is that business plans are good to have, but what are you gonna do when that plan doesn't work? I will always go with the business person or the management team over the business plan.
I agree.
If you look at business plans, you'll never find a business plan that shows going out of business in 3 years.
That's right.
Every single business plan that you'll ever read
Yep.
is going to show, numbers marching upwards.
Yep.
And they're going to be profitable.
Yes.
But in reality, that doesn't even come close to ever happening.
Lots of businesses fail within 3 years.
Lots of businesses
Lots
fail.
of them, yeah.
So, you take the business plan with a grain of salt, knowing that there's a good chance, most likely, it's not going to work out the way that. And that's not just for small entrepreneurs. I mean, you think about multi-billion-dollar businesses that start up that ultimately fail. I mean,
Yeah.
look at in the tech space, I mean, it's littered with companies that had multi-billion-dollar valuations and now are worth zero.
Exactly. Had the plan, had the passion, but didn't have the business sense and just couldn't make it happen. It's just kind of if you go out and get a cookbook. And, I'm a terrible cook, but I go get my Martha Stewart cookbook, and I go home. I mean, it's a great book. It has all the recipes, but I can't make it happen.
Right.
Everything I cook in there is going to be like crap.
That's right.
So
You
that's
need
how.
Martha Stewart. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's why all these celebrity chefs don't worry about putting out the cookbooks.
That's
They
right.
know you're still going to come to the restaurant.
Exactly.
Exactly right.
They know that all
Here
of
you
us.
go. Good luck.
Good luck. Exactly. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
Always go with the good business person
That's
who
right.
has good business sense.
That's
And
right.
if someone can't deliver on the plan is just a plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, the plan's going to shift. The plan is just your best guess at whatever point you created it.
Exactly. And you're right. No one talks about the failure.
Yeah, no one talks about the
No
failures.
one
Yeah.
ever. And you know what I find very interesting, even when people make it and even, they start and then 2 years later they've made it and they talk about, how things have been. No one ever talks about, my first office was like crap. I didn't make any money for a year. No one likes to talk about the ugly,
That's
real
right.
stuff.
It's true. I think it's sort of like a flaw in our society or something like that. It's hard to, it's hard to show your failures.
Yeah.
It's hard to show your struggles. It's much easier to put on a good face.
Yeah.
And I think society in general, we like a good story.
Mm-hmm.
We like to see how things turned out well at the end.
Mm-hmm.
For the first decade when you were struggling, eating raviolis out of a can, no one was paying any attention to you.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
It's only after you've made it, and then,
Yeah.
you get the notoriety.
It's very weird that there is very little value assigned to like the actual hustle and the struggle of like you waking up at 3 a.m. and like, sending out emails and then going to your real job while, you're trying to get your business off the ground. Like no one wants to talk about that.
That's not sexy.
I know,
It's
you're right.
glamorous.
It's not sexy. Everyone's like,
They want to see me like stepping out of my jet.
yes, they're like, until you get that jet, until you get that like Tesla, that Ferrari,
exactly.
like this guy is not. I don't want to be seen with this guy,
Right.
and that's so wrong.
Yeah,
Like,
it's not realistic.
It's not realistic. We all start somewhere, and it's not pretty.
Right.
It's scary.
Right.
And you have mental breakdowns and like all this stuff.
Yeah.
You want to like when we started Kapok, first 2 weeks. I told Jake I was selling my house and I was moving away. No one is ever going to find me because it was so scary.
Right.
and that's the truth. And it was just so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I think those experiences, they make you tougher. It's like the school of hard knocks.
I know.
So you really can't. I don't think you can have the success down the road without going through that.
No.
I think you need to really, you need to be able to, that's where all the learning, like we were talking about earlier, that's where all the learning happens.
Yes.
And that's where you gain the experience. That's where you gain the knowledge. That's where you gain the judgment.
Yes.
So, I mean, I think those early experiences are very valuable.
I agree. So I guess we're talking about business and starting out. Do you want to talk about maybe like entrepreneurs and what they should be doing, advice?
Do we have any other recommendations or tips or anything for other aspiring entrepreneurs out there?
I mean, we kind of touched on a couple of things. Finding good mentors, finding good partners. I talked about being very kind of wary about who you associate yourself with. It's very important. One thing that I would say is take the time to get to know people. You'd be surprised. Looks can be deceiving, and we have this tendency to kind of put our judgments on people while actually getting to know them. You'd be surprised the things that you can learn and come to know if you just take the time to get to know someone and really get to know them deeply.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know you were a rap head. I had no idea you like
I am?
like old school New York rap. I mean, we were talking about this one day, remember? I was like, you know who these people are? She's
Of
like,
course I know.
know.
I mean, I grew up listening to hip hop, and as an
I would have never guessed
immigrant.
it, see? I mean, that was my own shortcoming.
So when you met me, what kind of music did you think I listened to?
I have no idea. I would have never said, rap music.
I love hip hop, and as an immigrant, when my family moved here in the late 90s, I could kind of relate to the struggle and the culture, and like it spoke to me.
Yeah.
And it just always stayed with me, and it's my music.
Right.
But when people meet me and they're like, "Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like you listen to that?" Like, yeah, I listen to that.
Right.
But yeah, most people don't know that. They're shocked.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed it. The only thing I didn't know is is the reading. You're a big reader. I didn't know that.
I do love to read, but I have been slacking off this year. I have been having my sinus stuff, and I haven't been feeling well, and I've kind of fallen behind in my reading. But I do love to read, and just to kind of get away, and at least mentally, and just kind of read about other people's successes and failures, and kind of see what how they did it and how I should do it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I do love to read, and I do love hip hop a lot.
Who knew? Yeah.
Who knew?
Yeah.
I didn't really know that you like the Roots and all that. I didn't know that you like hip hop.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would have guessed like you're more of like the classical guy, and like
You give up that classical music vibe.
yeah, like I don't know,
I
Patrick.
don't know what that is, but I need to stop doing that.
Like Patrick's so smart, he's very like calm, and it's just how we perceive people, and like you said, get to know people and see what they're about.
I think that's a really good point, and it doesn't even have to be business people. Everyone has a story and something you can learn from.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we had this on the agenda, but I guess we should talk about what has been your biggest challenge or struggle of like switching from medicine to business, and how are you adjusting?
Yeah, I mean, one of my biggest struggles, I would say, just kind of getting started. That's just always the biggest struggle. Trying to find a balance.
Yeah.
In life, because you really you're pulling together. You have this idea, something that you want, but you're really trying to like pull together resources. Whether that be money, maybe that be connections, opportunities. Those are some of the struggles that I've kind of faced.
Yeah.
And even still, trying to. I mean, I met a guy at a meeting, and we exchanged business cards. I really wanted to follow up with him. I must have sent this guy emails and phone calls for like a month. He never got back to me. And so but I thought that he'd be someone who could be really helpful, be very insightful. But it's kind of things like that. Getting access to people, getting access to opportunities. I mean, business deals.
Yeah.
Raising money. Raising money is a huge one. Those are all parts of just starting up. And it's really tough too if you're starting out as your side hustle, and you have other responsibilities like your job or your family, and also if it's just you with an idea, you don't really have other people to lean on. So even building a team can be tough.
Yes. You're right. You're just alone with your idea.
Right.
And you're talking to yourself a lot.
Yeah.
And then that starts to feel like your safe space. And then the next step is stepping out of that and putting that out there publicly, and that's scary.
That's right.
Because you haven't
people are
really
gonna judge you.
Exactly.
Like, what are you doing?
Oh, I
Why
know.
are you doing this? I mean, I got that so much. It's like you finished medical school. You did all this training. What are you doing? Like, why are you going back to school? Why are you getting this other education? Like, why do you want to do this? Just sit back and go make some money and take care of
Ride the
patients.
wave.
Yeah,
We've
exactly.
talked about this on the podcast before. So many people told us not to start Kapok Marketing. Like
So many.
people. Like,
Is that right?
Oh my gosh.
stick with your job you've got. You're making a good amount of money. Why would you rock the boat?
right.
Like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
That's silly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And like close family members in
Yeah.
my case, just stay where you are, ride the
Yeah.
wave. Like, are you crazy? You're making so much money. Just whatever happens.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't convince them or communicate to them that I have like plateaued at my current job at that time. I needed something more.
Yep.
It just wasn't filling up my tank.
Yeah.
And but some people don't understand
Yeah,
that.
Well, I always say that people don't see things how things are in reality. They see things how they are.
Yeah.
So they're probably going into their head and thinking to themselves, well, I'm afraid for Jake Morella. Don't do this.
Yes.
And so I'm doing you a favor by telling you to stick with your job. Don't take any risks, because I wouldn't take any risks.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm freaked out. So let me just me just give you some advice. You know.
Yeah, you're right.
And now I feel better because I told you, how
I did
felt.
my job, and now like you.
That happens a lot. You'd be surprised.
They're projecting their fears a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, I've had family members tell me, oh my gosh, I just wish that you would have gotten a better degree. I wish that you would have become an engineer or a doctor so you don't have to go through all these things. Your job would be more secure. And it's like, I don't want to be an engineer.
That's
I
right.
don't want to be a doctor.
Right.
It's not in me. Like,
Right.
I only have one life. I don't want to be
Right.
miserable.
And a lot of people, that security, some people say, I don't need to be secure. I'm secure knowing that I'm doing what I want to be doing. That's security.
Yes.
The job is not security.
No.
Yeah.
The job can just be a cage that's
Yeah.
keeping you in and keeping you down and keeping you depressed.
And it's an illusion that it's secure too. Like you don't
right.
control that business. It could go out of business too. Like you
Right.
just don't know because you're not the owner or, on the board and know
Right.
the information.
Right.
Exactly. Or you can get fired
Yeah. Lay
or
off.
whatever the case is.
Right.
But it's very scary and challenging when you're kind of in between like your main job and then like your side piece
Yeah.
hustle
Right.
situations. Like,
Right.
oh my gosh, how do like making that leap is so tough. And
Right. And the other thing too is that, people they come to they build like an identity for you. They come to know you as a
yes,
certain individual. And
Yes.
then when you do something different, you don't kind of match the the image they have of you. Like so they see me as, Patrick the doctor. What are you doing over here to read these financial statements? You should be reading, about
I had never thought of that. That's a really
that's a good
interesting
point.
yeah.
Like it's almost like you're messing with like their like perception of you. It's like, whoa, like you don't have any business doing that.
Yeah, I mean it's like because they don't see you as a business person or or whatever. They see you as they see how they come to know you. So you're kind of it's hard for people to see you in a different light. You know what I mean?
It's very true.
Yeah.
And I think recently I was on Instagram, of course, wasting time, and actor Idris Elba, he was on there, and he just did like a little video, and he was giving people advice, and he said, distance yourself from people who always want to put you in a box, and they always have an idea of who you should be
Right.
at a specific time in your life.
Yeah.
And he talks about how he's a DJ, and at his
didn't know that.
age, everyone's like, "What are you doing?" I
Right.
think he's in his 40s or 50s. Like, you don't have any business being a DJ. Like,
Right.
just quit that.
Yeah. Right.
And he's saying, "No, like I love being a DJ.
Yeah.
It's my thing."
Yeah.
And he's just talking about how people who are like that are so dangerous.
That's right.
And they will keep you down hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but it's so hard to say no to those voices.
Yeah, it's hard. That's why I think it's just so important to like surround yourself, like I said, with people you admire, with good people that you want to be like. For me, I try to surround myself by people I think are successful business people and successful entrepreneurs, and kind of use them as a model, use them as a sounding board.
Yeah.
And for me, it's inspiring. I mean, even like podcasts I listen to, books about people who are successful. Those are all good ways for me to just kind of quiet the the negative thoughts in my head and kind of focus on what I know to be valuable to me. It's like what's true.
That's
You know what I
true.
mean?
And find that thing that's speaking to you.
Exactly.
Instead of just listening to all these voices. And yeah, it's very tough. The little voices can like really get you down. And,
Right.
and especially if it's someone who is close to you and you love, like family member, friend. And
Yeah, it
it's
can be
like,
really
oh
difficult.
my God, like Mom, I didn't know you felt like this
Yeah.
about me. Like, I thought you thought I could do anything.
Yeah, right.
But I guess you have to dial it back and realize like Mom is just speaking out of fear.
Yeah.
She loves you and she's scared
Right.
that this is not going to work out.
Yeah.
And,
many people do speak out of fear.
Yeah. And many people choose not to do anything out of fear.
That's right.
And people decide to be indecisive out of fear.
That's right.
And it's so crazy how fear feels safe.
That's right. It's the
weird.
change, it's something that I mean the unknown is scary.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. People will, even if people are in a bad, it's like people being in a bad relationship.
Yeah.
It's bad, but
At least it's a
at
relationship.
least I know what this bad is. I don't want to know what happens if I have to be alone or if this person leaves or something like that. You know, it happens to a lot of people. I mean, the unknown can be a very scary place.
I agree. And
failure can be scary too.
yes. And especially if you're by yourself and it's like, oh my God, I don't know. I think from the beginning, Jake and I have been lucky to have each other as business partners, and we can kind of, pick each other up and like call each other out. And then, eventually we started adding employees.
Yeah.
And that just having other people in addition to ourselves has it's a game changer.
Yeah.
Like
really great.
things become real. It's like now we have people, we're doing stuff, and it's amazing.
Yeah, you guys are doing great. I mean, look at this. I mean, I'm kicking it with K-pop.
I know, right?
I would have never thought a year ago. I mean, a year ago, I would have never thought I'd be here right now.
It's so crazy. I don't know. I don't even know what we thought we were going to. What did you think we'd be doing like a year ago?
Oh, I wanted to do a podcast before I even started Kapok Marketing, but
Oh yeah, you're right. Jake is the reason that we're doing this podcast.
The podcast isn't that amazing, but I mean, it's a good podcast. But,
why did you want to do a podcast?
I don't know. A couple of years ago, I started listening to a podcast, and I just got like enthralled with the idea. I just thought it was a really cool medium, and bring people in and talk to them, and basically, like you were saying earlier, just connect with people. Hear their story, and at the same time share that story with other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of our goals as a marketing agency is to teach local organizations about marketing and teach them about ins and outs of business, the good and the bad. And this is such a great platform for doing that.
Yeah.
And we get to sit here and have a conversation, which is super enjoyable. But then afterwards, that conversation continues when other people are watching and listening, and they're having conversations. So it's kind of like a gift that keeps on giving.
Yep.
And I have to be honest, I did not understand and appreciate that when Jake approached me with this idea 6 months ago. I thought, oh my God, this is so crazy. I'm going to sound stupid. I'm going to look stupid. Who wants to listen to me? Who am I? This is not going to work out. And I was wrong.
And it's a very interesting medium. Like, there's a lot of successful people that listen to podcasts, a lot of high income people listen to podcasts. So it's a very interesting subset of people that you can reach with a podcast. And it's probably because you can do it while you're driving, while you're on the treadmill. Yeah. So it allows people who are trying to get a lot accomplished to, learn something while they're doing something else.
Right.
Exactly.
So then let me ask you, what would you say would be the most interesting thing that you've learned or experienced with since you've been doing these podcasts? What would you say?
I'm not sure. It's been a real learning experience, learning the equipment to get, and
I guess I meant from someone else.
Oh,
like of the people that you've interviewed, what's been the most interesting thing that you've learned about someone?
About someone? Yeah. Well, I've learned a couple of things. I've learned about these advisory boards, which I never knew existed. I thought you're a corporation and you have a formal board of directors, but then I realized that you can have a board of advisors who are just there to help you, and they don't really get paid a lot. Usually they're retired people. And the other thing that I've learned is that everyone is different when we start recording, and
yeah, I agree. That's definitely, I'll take that. That's the most interesting thing, is everyone is a different person for the most part on the podcast, in some slight way.
Yeah, but you're pretty consistent actually.
Yeah. I think you're the most. Yeah,
you're the most kind of even person that we've had. But most people, they either get really quiet, they start talking really quickly, or they just develop a whole new personality. It's I didn't know that Bob is like this. What's going on? Right. And it's very, very different.
Okay. But it's not different in a bad way. Everyone that we've had on.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. It allows us to really get to know people. Mm-hmm. We're all nervous. I mean, including myself. I'm nervous right now, and I'm also worried that I sound sick, and because I am really sick. Mm-hmm. But when you reveal all these insecurities and you're in this tight space, you really have to work with each other and you really get to know people.
Yeah.
And you can learn things about people that you wouldn't otherwise. Like you might ask them a question that you would never ask them if, there wasn't this idea that it's being broadcast out there. Like,
Yeah.
I think you had that happen with Dale, or maybe not Dale, but the Howard guy, where we learned about Dale's grandfather a little bit more. And
Oh yeah, you just have conversations and you realize that you're connected to all these people and you had no idea.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I've learned is that nothing ever goes according to the plan. And I kind of knew that before we started recording this, but this really dialed it in for me. It's like, no, we have an outline, we can rehearse it all day long. When the camera turns on, I don't know if maybe I become a different person. I don't know. Like yesterday we were practicing a little bit for the podcast and I was talking to Jake and Sammy and I said, I don't know, guys, why are we practicing? Tomorrow I'm going to be a different person. And they thought I was insane.
Right.
But I think it happens.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. Every episode is different. We learn new things and it's exciting.
Yeah.
So do we want to talk about anything else? Or?
Is there anything else that we should have asked you, but we haven't?
I know.
Well, I just have one other question for you guys. With respect to the people that you've had on your podcast, is there anyone that you would recommend that I, get to know, to contact, to reach out to?
Howard.
Yeah.
Howard Task.
And why do you say that, I would say?
Well, he has been in business and marketing for a long time, I think 30 plus years. And he is located in Ohio, but he's a professional. He calls himself a professional board member. He sits on different advisory boards for different companies and big companies like Stanley Steamer. And he's very connected in the business world and in marketing. So I think he would be, and he's also really cool people to talk to. Okay. And he has a good personality. And so, yeah, I think it would be a good match for you.
I'll definitely do that.
Yeah. I liked Howard, and he actually sits on the board. I don't know if it's the real board or the board of advisors for my first boss's company, which is located in Ohio, J.T. Eaton and Company.
Okay.
And he sits on their board.
Okay, cool.
And so we'll connect you with Howard.
Nice.
I think you'll like him.
That's great.
I like how Patrick is asking all these good questions.
Dale did this to us too in the podcast. Ask us a question or make a comment in the podcast that you.
Oh yeah, Dale, who's my very first boss. He went nuts in the podcast in a good way. He turned the table on us and was asking us questions, and I'm like, oh my god, am I gonna have these answers? And I was itching, and but it wasn't in the video, so that was a little bit more comforting. But you don't know, people just. Things just jump at you, and so anything else you want to talk about? I
don't think so. I think it's been great. I really enjoyed this.
All right. If anyone wants to connect with you, do you have a website or any way they could learn more about you and what you're doing?
Yeah, I have a couple of websites.
They're really good.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Patrick.
Best way to reach me is at my website, Weston at Work.
Okay.
Or you can just type in my name, patricksweston.com.
Oh, they should find you on Twitter.
Or you can find me on Twitter.
Yes. Yeah. Patrick does enjoy Twitter.
That's right.
So they can find you there.
Yep.
Any other places they can find you?
Or on my website, westrockinvestments.com.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
I know. Thank you, Patrick. This was a lot of fun. I think I had more fun than I expected. I was actually very nervous. So thank you for coming on and being so cool, calm, and collected. And I think that's a wrap.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for letting me kick it with Kapok.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right.